Thank you. Now be nice, be nice, be nice. Be nice to the person. Be nice. Be nice to the person. Don't hurt the person. Don't hurt the person. Don't hurt the person. Don't hurt the person. Okay. So, but don't be rude. Don't be rude, please. Don't be rude. But don't hurt the person, okay? So if they would have had guns, you wouldn't have had the carnage that you had. So just to finish off in Florida. So we are beating a for Florida. He's got the worst voting record in the state. He's got the vote. Okay. One person. Please nicely escort the person out. Please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Escort the person out, please. Thank you. What do you got? One person. All right, yeah, please, nicely escort the person out, very nicely. Very nicely. Come on, let's go, come on. Let's go, you can go faster than that, come on. Come on, you can go faster. Let's go. Come on. Thank you very much. Do you see how diplomatic I've become? Right? Because at the last rally, we had one person, we had 15,000 people, we had one person who was really, really being bad, and it was horrible, And we said, get him out, We're a little bit rough. And I got criticized. So today, you're my witness. Could I have been nicer than that? Right? So I just want to tell you that it looks really good. It's an amazing group of people that I'm meeting, and it's almost like one. I go to Dallas. We have 20,000 people. We had 3 days to fill up an arena. 20,000 people in the Mavericks arena. And you go to, as an example, Oklahoma, 20. Mobile, Alabama, 35,000 people. And not only people, and I say it all the time, it's so easy to do this because there's such love in the room. There's love in the room. We want to see good things happen. We want to see good things happen. Okay, let's talk about a couple of items because there's so many. You know, one of the nice things about not being one of the many that use the teleprompters, first of all, it's more exciting, right? Isn't it more exciting? You need a good memory, but it's much more exciting. And I always said, presidential candidates should not be allowed to use teleprompter because all they do is read. That's all they do. Look what we got. Look what we got. But, you know, in Los Angeles, on the front page of the Los Angeles Times, there's a big scandal. A super PAC, I guess it's sort of raising money for Carson primarily, raised $6 million. And out of the $6 million, how much was given to the candidate? He says $1, almost. Got a wise guy here. You're not far off. $140,000. So they raised $6 million, and they got $140,000 left over for the candidates. And I think it's outrageous. And if you look at these super PACs, first of all, they're totally controlling the candidates. They're totally like puppets. They're totally controlling the candidates. Whether it's Bush or this totally phony Kasich or any of these people, they're controlled, and including Rubio, they're controlled by their super PAC. The people put up money, and they want something. A guy gives $1 million or $5 million or $3 million. That person wants something. Now, what you don't read, and I've been hearing this for the last number of months, and I heard it with Romney. I mean, Romney had a guy that made a fortune raising money for him. More money than anybody in this room made by selling real estate or whatever you might do. They raise money. And they raise this big amount of money. They take massive percentages of the money they raise. This isn't real estate. This is politics. It's not supposed to be like this. It's a scam. It's a scam. And what happened strongly, and it's happening all over, I had, I think, 9 or 11 groups wanting to raise money under the super PAC. And I saw what was happening, because this kind of stuff, I don't get scammed. I don't want a president that can be scammed. All right? I don't want it. Can you imagine? Think of it. $140,000 left over to use, and I'm sure that money's stolen also. So they raised $6 million, and there's essentially nothing. Okay? And I saw it. I saw a couple of young guys that did I think it was called, I don't know, they named it after one of my books. Okay? Did anybody ever hear of The Art of the Deal? And they look good. They look like two young, smart guys. But they raised, and they said, yes, we love Donald Trump. We want to raise money for Donald Trump. We formed I don't know who they are. And we're calling it, I think, The Art of the Deal Super PAC. And many others. And I said, you know what? Some of them probably are legit, and some of them definitely aren't. And I don't want to be involved. So we sent letters, legal letters, to every super PAC. We love you very much. Close them down. We don't want any of their money. We're self-funding our campaign. I mean, when I take my helicopter over here, it's expensive. I'm paying for it, okay? I'm paying for it. When I get on my airplane, I'm paying for it. The only thing we do, we take, and that doesn't mean pay, don't worry about it, you don't have to do it. But I have so many people, like I think over 80,000 people sent very small contributions in, $17, $50, $100, $200, because they really love what we're doing. And two reasons. Number one, it would cost you more money to send it back than it's worth. But importantly, you'd insult these people. When they send in money with letters and, they're in love with our country, the passion they have. And if you ever sent that money back, it would be, there's nothing you can write to make them feel good if they ever got that check back. And yet that check means a lot. Those are the people you really want involved. So other than that, we're self-funding our campaign. I love doing it. I'm having a good time. We're really beating the hell out of everybody. It's fantastic. We're really winning. We're really winning. We're winning big league. And I sort of, what I'm very proud of, I'll spend a lot of money before this thing's over, but so far, number one in every poll, number one in every state, number one nationally, I've spent less money than anybody else. Just about. Think of it. So at first I said, we have to spend more money because it doesn't look good. And one of my people said, no, it looks great. You're spending less and you have the best return on your spending, right? So what's happened is we're doing amazing. And the love and the everything that's going on. And then I read the papers in the morning, and it's always depressing. And this morning, one of the headlines, number of migrants crossing the Rio Grande, the border, is way up, way through the roof. And it's getting worse and worse. And we're going to build the wall. We are going to build the wall, believe me. Yeah, we're going to build the wall. We're going to build the wall. It's going to be a real wall. It's going to be a great wall. And Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Believe me, they're going to pay. They're going to pay. I love Mexico. I love the Mexican people. I have great relationships. I've hired thousands and thousands of Hispanics. I have thousands working for me right now. And they love me and I love them. They're great people. They're great workers. And you know what? I'm going to win the Hispanic vote. I really believe it. I really believe it. And I think I'm going to win the African-American vote. A poll came out recently where I got this tremendous number with African-Americans in the Republican, as a Republican, which is pretty unusual, sadly. And one of the commentators said, you know, if that number is true, Trump wins this election easily. I said, I told you. I mean, it's one of those things. So I think I'm going to do great with the African-American vote. I think I'm going to do great with the Hispanic vote. Because you know what? I'm going to bring back jobs to our country. I'm not going to have China ripping us, and Japan and Brazil and everybody. There's practically nobody that doesn't. Because we have, of all in the world, probably the dumbest leadership. That's why. It's very simple. Nobody has dumb leadership like us. Like the whole thing with anchor babies. The whole thing with anchor babies. So I came out, oh, did I take heat? Have I taken heat, by the way? Think of it. No, I mean, what have I done? I announced I'm running. It was like brutal. Rush Limbaugh, and I say it. He said Donald Trump has taken more incoming than any human being I've ever seen. And then he goes, has a news conference, and doubles down. Everybody said, will you apologize? I said, for what? I'm right. You know, look, apologies are fine. And apologizing is fine. But, you know, you got to be wrong. It turned out that I was so right about illegal immigration. And I think it's one of the reasons that we've gone so high. There's a safety problem. There's also a job problem. Jobs are being taken away from American people. They're being taken away. And I want people to come into the country, but they have to do it legally. They have to. They have to do it legally. They have to do it. And I want them to do it, and I'm going to love them. And you know what? When people graduate from Harvard and Yale and the Wharton School of Finance and Stanford and Princeton and all these great schools, and then they're forced out of the country, I want them to stay. I want very talented people to stay. I know a case, one of the top students at Harvard graduates, gets thrown out of the country, starts up a company in India, employing thousands of people now, only a period of 5 years. Thousands of people wanted to do the same thing here. We can't do that. We can't do that. We have to be smart. So I want people in the country, and I want people to come in the country, but they have to do it legally. And when somebody graduates and is an outstanding student, and they go through our college system, and they want to stay in this country, and they check out in every way, by the way, they have to check out. But they check out. I want them to stay here. I want them to do business here, not in another country where they end up clobbering us. So I think it's important. And a lot of Republicans don't think so. I think it's very important. You know, a lot of the Republicans have become tough guys all of a sudden. They're tough guys all of a sudden. Like you have Rubio, so weak on illegal immigration. He was a member of the Gang of Eight. You know what the Gang of Eight was, right? Come on in, everybody. Take our property. Come on in. All of a sudden, his polls go down. Now, look, Rubio, who I really don't know. I sat next to him on the stage, or I stood next to him on the stage. But you just look at what we're competing in. We'll talk about a couple of them. So Rubio comes out. He represents, for a short period of time, the people of Florida. He's got the worst attendance record in the United States Senate. Doesn't vote. He's very weak on illegal immigration, totally in favor of amnesty, which you can't do, okay? You look at Bush. Bush is in favor of Common Core. I don't even mention him anymore. You know, I hit him hard at the beginning because, you know, I figured Bush, whether you like Bush or not, you would think that he has the advantage because he's from a family that's been involved, right? I don't know if we like it, but he's from a family. So I came up with a statement, because I believe it. He's a low-energy person, right? He's a low-energy person. And everybody said, you're right, that was it. But I don't think he's there. But if you look at Bush, he's in favor of Common Core. How can you be in favor of Common Core educationally? I want education to be brought to this level, to the level where you have local people that love their children and want to see good for their children, not some bureaucrat in Washington that's getting paid a fortune and couldn't care less about the children in Florida or Iowa or New Hampshire, or South Carolina, or California, or New York. You get these people that are making a fortune. You see the salaries they're being paid? And think of it. If it worked, I'd be fine. But in the entire world, we're number 28 on education, and yet we're number 1 for spending per pupil by a wide margin. There's nobody even close to us. So we spend more money per pupil, and yet we're 28th. We have third world countries that are ahead of us in education. And then they fight for Common Core. Anybody in favor of Common Core should be defeated at the polls because they have no sense. They have no sense. Now, I took a lot of heat from a newspaper that's a failing newspaper called the New York Times. Failing. No, it's failing. You know, it's hard for me to say this, but yesterday they had 3 stories about me. One on a plaque that I put up this big on the Potomac River. They said, well, it didn't really say the right thing. They were saying it said something else than what happened in the Civil War. Some consultant said. So I said, really, were they there? Were they there? This was a front page story in the New York Times, okay, to show you where we've come. But I guess the day before yesterday, I had 3 stories. Yesterday, I only had 1. It was an off day. Never a good story. Editorials, oh, that is so bad. You and I believe the same things. They don't agree with us, okay? But here, listen to these statistics. So the New York Times, which is in huge financial difficulty, which won't make it. Somebody will come along, some rich guy. Maybe I'll do it. No, some rich guy that wants to be relevant, that, you know, is rich but nobody ever heard of him and he can't get a place at a restaurant. There are a lot of those guys. I have a lot of friends. They call me. They say, Don, they're worth $3 billion. Don, could you do me a favor? Could you get me a place at a restaurant? I said, which restaurant? This one. I said, you know, what's the good of being rich if you can't get a reservation at a restaurant? Isn't it true, though? He said, you're right. Can you get me the place? So I get them. I always get people. I like doing that. Then they say, why do you work so hard? I say, because I like getting good restaurant tables, I guess. I don't know. But look at the New York Times. So here are some statistics. Here are some numbers. Because I took a lot of heat about a reporter who changed the story after 14 years. A reporter that says, I know him. I don't know him. I mean, I may have met him. Some of the people back there, they reported me every day. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they look like, but I know their name. And they know what I'm talking about. I know their name. And some treat me good and some treat me badly, mostly badly because, you know, they don't come from where we come from. But I know their name, but I don't know. So I took a lot of heat, but before I get to it, because this reporter works for the New York Times now, used to work for the Washington Post, and this reporter is so happy. People have heard of him now. Nobody ever heard of the guy. Now he's having such a good time. So what happens is this. The New York Times, they won't put this on television. You're wasting your time. Nor will they put the crowd on television. See the cameras? They're fixated at my face. No, they won't put it on television. They never put it on television. They never, ever put it on television. They never, I'm telling you. Always. You know, we have thousands of people outside. Thousands. In fact, when I'm finished here, I'm going to go up because I do have a lot of strength and stamina, okay? Unlike Hillary. I'm going to go outside and we're going to devote some good time to the people outside. But, I mean, literally, you have thousands of people standing out there. So the New York Times had a cathedral, one of the great cathedrals in all of the newspaper world. Nothing like it. 229 West 43rd Street, right off Broadway. I used to go in there when I was young, because I've been doing this stuff for a long time, believe me. It's time now for us to do something else, make America great again. It's time for us to, right? Time for us, right? Time for us to do something else. But 229 West 43rd Street. So the New York Times takes this unbelievable place, and they've had it for years, from probably the inception, and you walked in, and here you were in this, so important. Believe me, so important. And the marble, you couldn't build it. And you'd see pictures of the publishers and the editors from many, many years ago when it was first starting. The original founders, the people that made it great. Now it's going down the tubes fast. But the real people that made it great. And you'd say, wow, It was intimidating, I'm telling you. You'd have a meeting with the editorial board in those editorial rooms. It was really something special. It was special. Does that make sense to you? Do you know what I'm talking about? So they took that building and they sold it for $175 million to guys that I know very well, real estate guys, pros. They flipped it, listen to this, in a short period of time for $525 million. So think of it. So the New York Times takes this unbelievable building. And you know one of the reasons they did that? Because they bought the Boston Globe and they needed more space. But the Boston Globe was one of the worst investments of all time. They bought the Boston Globe for $1.1 billion. They lost tremendous amounts of money over a period of years. Tremendous. It was hemorrhaging. They spent a fortune, hundreds of millions of dollars, on new computers, everything. They spent a fortune. So they paid $1.1 billion. They lost a fortune during a long period of time that they owned it. And they sold it for $70 million, and I think the 70 is probably $1. I mean, they reported 70, but I have a feeling it's a lot less than 70, because I know the people that bought it, and they're very smart. They're not even going to pay 70. And yet they sold their building, think of it, for 75, and the guys who are pros, friends of mine, flipped it for